So in yesterday's video, I had a bird fly into the tree in front of me and was able to get it on camera, but I didn't get a good shot of the bird. But I have determined that I'm pretty confident with what I did see of it that it's a peregrine falcon. And so naturally, since I was doing a video when this thing showed up, it's like that's gotta mean something too, right? I mean, of course, that I saw this bird to begin with, and it was kind of just the way it showed up and everything. Sorry, my Shiva Lingam all jacked up in the little. I hate it when the chains go on the wrong side. There we go. Okay. So, yeah, let me fix that. Okay, so I was talking about some stuff that was going on kind of between my mom and my sister-in-law. And their butting heads when this thing came in. And like I saw a little bit of the pattern on his face. I saw like brown and white when he flew away. I didn't see like the bars or whatever that they apparently have, but it was getting dark. Well, it was like what 6:30. It was getting dark, so I didn't really get a good look of it. But I'm pretty sure with what I did see of it that it was the falcon. So I had to look up the symbolism. I feel like that was a whole lot of rambling about me saying the exact same thing a couple times. Anyway, I looked it up, and the first thing that popped up was this little picture from I don't know, what is my spirit animal or something. I'll have to find the link, but it said, when falcon rises as your spirit animal, it's time to sit in the seat of your own power. And then I kept looking, and there's just one thing that was kind of long. I mean, it was like 2 shots that I took screenshots of, and some of it was the same picture, but yeah, I don't feel like the whole first part is necessarily super relevant to it. The last line definitely is, but then the rest of it just kind of goes with it. So I'm just going to read the whole damn thing. And I just saw 2:34 on the clock, and that's relevant because it was 2:34 when we got done with our walk, and we walked apparently 1.11 miles today and gained an elevation of 11 feet. And then there was some other weird stuff with 2s, 3s, and 4s in the steps. I think steps was 32:44, and time was 33:24 or 42 or something like that. So it's they were all they were shuffled around, but they were all still there. I've been seeing a lot of weird numbers today. I watched a Jay Shetty thing before we walked that had 333 comments on it. It's okay. Clearly. And that was all talking about he was talking about the wrong person can hold your hand, but the right person will hold your heart, and that kind of stuff. And it's yep, it's just a whole lot of relevant stuff that for everything that's been going on lately. Anyway, the falcon thing. The long thing says, practice gratitude in all you do, and more abundance will come your way. Do not fall for the greediness of the world. Focus on purpose, and it doesn't matter how rich someone else is. It doesn't benefit you, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because you have to fulfill your own specific purpose for being here and not live through others. Gone are the days where you were hidden in the shadows of others. Come into the light and fulfill your destiny. The peregrine falcon also prophesies that when you are doing the right thing, you have nothing to fear. It is also a message to let go of negative people, release draining circumstances, move on from people who continue to make a mess of your life by adding stress. The peregrine falcon is about people contributing to your peace of mind and allowing yourself to give in return to their peace as you see fit. It's never an arm-bending circumstance or guilt trip hell-bent on coercing you to contribute to things you could care less about. That's my life, right? there was a whole lot of guilt tripping along the way, and I don't know. There's some other stuff that's been going on today that I'm kind of feeling in a good mood about. And I feel like my eye makeup is really damn close to my rose on my pants today. So that kind of makes me happy now that I have my knee up here, where I can see it close to my makeup. Yeah. Anyway. I feel like we're getting ready to get to the good stuff, right? And, part of that's making this a priority to do this thing daily. And it was a little bit of an effort today because there was somebody at the dog park. So we're at this little park that we've been the last few days. And there was somebody in the dog park. So I knew they were going to get wound up because I got the kids in here. I knew they were going to get wound up when they went to leave. So we decided to go on a little drive. And we went to the other park, which isn't too far away, just like 2 or 3 miles probably. And drove all the way through it. And there were people on the spot that we would have stayed to do a video. And there was no other good spot to settle. So we went to the cemetery, and they were apparently getting ready to have a funeral because they got their tent up and everything. And one of the, I don't know if it was like the mortuary van or something. It wasn't the hearse, it was a minivan. So I think they were bringing the flowers or whatever over. It's like, I can't hang out there to do a video with dogs in the car. Because like the one path that I would have stayed there like to do the video would have been fine, except for it was like covered with like slushy snow. And the other day after I got hung up on the ice, I don't really want to contend with that possibility, especially since that road or that little drive, since I normally back onto it, but it doesn't go all the way through if you don't back. So it was like slush and that, and I'll just skip it. So then we ended up coming back to this park. And there is a lady walking her dog around here somewhere, but we lost them. I know she went out the road, so she might have gone to the neighborhood across the street. She was walking around the little dog park area. But mine have settled enough, so hopefully that's not an issue whenever she does go back to her van. But if it is, I'll pause it or something. Yeah. I feel like really excited and kind of silly, and like, okay, so I feel like I'm getting little glimpses of things moving in favorable direction, right? And yeah. Like, even down to like there's somebody that looks similar to me in his vicinity at this point in time. And I know that sounds really silly, but to me that shows that kind of like his name's been like everywhere around me here lately, just that it's moving closer. And yeah, I don't know. Since I'm going to be able to go to my class tonight, I'll be all excited to share everything with them. And oh boy, here's a doodle. Okay. So far. Oh, and okay, as long as she just gets comfortable. She's getting comfortable, so we're good. Everybody's in the downward position, so as long as they don't, suddenly perk up and pay attention to the fact that there's a car over there with a doodle getting ready to get out of it, we'll be fine. We'll be fine, damn it. Yeah. long as he's getting in his trunk, so he's probably going to make a lot of noise. Yep. Now we heard it. Leave it. Anyway. God, I did some laundry. And big whoop, right? I did some laundry, and as I was standing there folding my clothes, my dad had something on the TV in the other room, and she's licking. She's honed in on it, kids. All right, leave it. Is she gonna leave it? That's the question. Question of the day. Will she do it? Gidget girl. Hey, Gidge. Hi. God, it is like a swampy mess out there too. So it was like the third 45-ish degree day, and so everything is melting off, and we ended up going through some puddles. So they had their wet feet. They were all tending to that while we were driving around for a little bit, and then then they'd hone in on what's going on and if anything exciting's coming about. And yeah, now we're just back to tired, except for that one. Oh, he's paying attention too. Whatever. This one's not. She could care less. She got her big walk in. She's 12. She's content, ready to take her nap, and when we get home, she'll be happy to eat. Yeah. Anyway, so I was doing laundry, and I heard something that my dad had on the TV. And I loathe politics completely. But it sounded like the current dingbat was talking about being seen as a peacemaker or something, bringing people together. It's like, dude, no. It's like just at the level of where you can say you did something and with other countries or something maybe, but you're like killing the inside or what's going on inside this country itself. So yeah. So so yes. Let me think. So I talk a lot about, you have to unify both aspects of yourself, right? And so, like, the whole purpose of this twin flame journey for me has been to show me that he's always been with me. It's ultimately an aspect of myself that I have been looking for my entire life, and yet it was always within me. And that goes back to that point of, that one day where I was listening to Berlin's Take My Breath Away over and over again, and had that thought pop into mind that said, God is love, love is God, love is all there is. And then it was just like this revelation that like everything in my lifetime has been pulling me back into like this great big love story, right? Because that's always like the biggest thing that I've been looking for in my life, and out to, it's been like my greatest desire, I guess. And then to find out that I've always been connected to this person. And, it's like a whole thing. So it's really, they're leaving the dog park. It might just, we're still on alert. And this one's trying to be. It might be too swampy for them. Yep. Time to towel off. Too soupy in there. Yeah, so Right. So I've always been looking for this thing, and like I've talked about, like some of the things, like the big prayers that I've had in my lifetime, like that idea of letting God write my love story, right? And um I'm really distracted with with hoping she doesn't do anything and trying to organize my thoughts at the same time. And it's just, uh-oh, this one found it now. Hey, 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 hey. Can we leave it? You in the video? What a good boy. What a good Tassie man. Don't do it. Don't do it. Leave it. Leave it. It's like, why do you ask me to do these things? I just want to yell. Yeah, and the flags are whipping behind us. But yeah, like that's like been the biggest thing. Like I don't even know how many times I have kind of sent that little casual prayer out there, and then then it seemed like it was taking an abnormally long time, right? But now I'm realizing that it's like there's been so much that's had to be navigated through to get me ready for it that, I mean, it makes sense. So yeah. And okay, so one of the things that happens on this whole twin flame journey is when you find, or when you first encounter this person's energy in the actual real world. Hey, 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 it's okay. Thank you. Thank you. It's like the shortest trip to the dog park ever. Leave it. Yeah, so Tezzy, you're distracting me, dude. Oh, yeah, the twin flame thing. So when that first came up and I first realized who he was to me specifically, because mind you, I encountered his energy, like 2020-ish, before I had any idea who he was to me specifically, but it had already like started some things. Because it was like after I came across him in real world, not really real world, because it was like social media space, but oh cool, it's a different dude with the dog that has the van. So the other lady, we're good on that one. And they're back to kind of off duty, so, or lesser duty. So, oh, nope, we're back. Back up. He's gone. Oh, now we see that one. Damn it. So, after I first encountered his energy and, like, I said something on his live stream he was doing, and he responded to it, and then it was like, one of those I've been spotted things. And leave it. Hey. Hey. Hey, it's okay. Leave it. Yeah, so like it was this weird feeling, but leave it. Ooh, that Dougie Red's in the back of the van. That's probably a good place for him. Especially these guys are wet and they've been in here, so they're gonna make it smell funky. Yeah. But God, traffic. Don't park by me, damn it. That'll be the one that gets them all wound up, because it's like, yeah, it's like 5 spots over, but still a lot closer and they can see. So, can't tell if there's a dog in there because I have tinted windows. So anyway, like after I said something and he commented on the live stream, then it's like I was made really aware of the fact that I didn't feel safe in my body, right? And so that gave me a whole bunch of stuff to have to start working through on that end. And yeah. Where was I going with that? Gage, you've distracted me. What was I going to do? What was I going to talk about? Oh, yes, I remember. I do remember. When I was finally made aware that he's the twin flame, he's the one I've been looking for, then I got really excited about a whole lot of things, and then I went into like this like mourning phase because it's like I was having to sit with the idea of how much time I wasted like with my ex, and you know, when I couldn't bring myself to get out of that situation because because of how I'd been made to feel about divorce, right? And that's just like the worst thing in the world, and you should never do that if you can avoid it. But yet, if you're stuck, it is okay to get out of it. Just because you spent a lot of time making the mistake doesn't mean you have to be stuck to it forever. There are new starts, and that's a big, I think, point / purpose of my life, is to demonstrate that. And so I had this little mourning phase because I felt like there was so much time that had been wasted that I could have gotten to this other thing sooner. And then also being made to realize that everything that happened had to happen, for like the various different pieces of why I'm here, period. Because like my family has been especially set in this idea that divorce is the absolute worst thing that could ever happen, right? And yet I've seen people literally just spend years of their time thinking it's because they love somebody, but it's really kind of an abusive situation. It's like, no. You're not there for love. You're there because you don't think there's another way, or you think this is as good as it is for you, and there's nothing better out there. And you've been put in fear of all these things that aren't in fact life-ending things. And so that was like the biggest thing with how I knew early on that divorce had to be on my path, because there were so many people that were just dead set on that is the worst thing. It's like, it's not. It's really not. In fact, if anything, I feel like it was necessary for me, because that relationship showed me the absolute worst of how I would allow myself to be treated. And it forced me to have to start choosing myself. And that was critical to this whole thing, right? So, 2019, 19s are important. I have said that many times and will continue to say that. And 19 speaks to the connectedness of all things. And yeah, it's prevalent in a lot of spaces, but for one, that was the date Tyler died. He died on July 19th. And then 2019 was when I got my divorce, and when I left that last time, and like there were a series of things that had to happen with, leaving my ex, and, how he started really treating me like shit because he knew it was about done. And pushed me to try to move faster on getting the divorce finalized. Because there was this whole thing with the phone drama. He couldn't just release my phone number. So what he did was he put parental controls on and made it so I could not contact anybody in my family and they could not contact me. Granted, he only knew, he had my parents' numbers, my aunt, and one of my cousins. So I don't know why that was all he had, but that was all he had. But for those ones that he did have, he made it so they couldn't text me, I couldn't text them, and let alone call. And when I realized that was going on, and what was the other piece of that? I don't know. Rather than releasing my number, he thought it would be easier to rename my phone bitch in capital letters, which helped to, to use that information to show Verizon that, hey, this is an abusive situation and we're trying to get out of it, but he won't release the number. So, they were able to take the number from him, I guess, if you will. But then, for whatever reason, after I got off of that plan, and we had to go jump through some hoops to get to be able to contact those numbers again. Well, then there was a thing where for whatever reason, it reverted back to the parental control settings. It was a few weeks later. And then there was this deal that Verizon was having on a buy one, get one kind of a deal. And it was buy one, get one with the purchase of a new phone line or something. It's I'm not attached to this number. It's we can get me a new number. It's my mom was due for a new phone. It's you can get whatever phone you want that is on this thing that they're doing. And I don't have to have a fancy phone. I just want a phone, and one I can, at the time, do my doom scrolling on. And, that was the thing. She's, for whatever reason, felt like it was necessary to keep me on the same phones that she's had. So, it works out for me because they've been nice phones, but yeah. And I will pay her back in time, but, at the same time, it wasn't necessary. I just needed a phone. And there was a time where I would have easily just taken a flip phone back just to have something, except for that probably wouldn't have been good for my doom scrolling, which I don't even do much of anymore. So yeah, but with all that stuff, it was I realized that it was only going to get worse. He wanted it to go to court because, I'd seen him fuck with somebody in court before, right? That whole custody case that I had to help him with, and chose to help from the standpoint of his brother didn't deserve what was getting thrown at him, and his kid didn't either. And unfortunately, the way I saw it at the time was I was with him at that point in time. So, I was, yes, I saw myself as a better example than the kid's mom and dad because they were just using him to fight each other in court. And I tried to demonstrate to him that that's not, just because those are your parents, you're not forever bound to being a shitty human like they were trying to enforce upon him, right? And, yeah. it got to a point, obviously, when I left, that the biggest thing on helping with the custody battle was, first off, my name also got put on this freaking protective order that was bullshit. So I had to fix that. But also, the deal with his brother's name getting dragged through the mud in all ways possible. And it's like, if nothing else, the one thing I can rely on with that dude was the one that I married, was the fact that he was so busy worrying about how he appeared to people that if the court said kid has to go to therapy, he was going to make sure the kid was in therapy. And he was doing that, and I did have the opportunity to tell the therapist exactly why I was leaving before I left. So it's like this whole situation's not good anyway, but this is also why I'm leaving. But then of course he was pissed further, because so I don't know if he'd continued with that one after I threw that out there, but yeah, I at least had the opportunity to do that. But since I knew that all he cared about doing was fucking with people, because he played to her fears on everything, and she got pulled right into his drama, over and over again, and it made her do even dumber shit than she was doing otherwise. And it's like, that's all he's gonna try to do. It's like, I don't have any desire in wasting a bunch of money to go back and forth to Alabama, because that's where we left. We were married there and we were done there, but since we were residents of that state at that point in time, it had to go through their court system. So my attorney was down there and everything, and he didn't get an attorney. He was all set on trying to make me feel like it was going to be easy to get stuff out of him. And it's like, all he was trying to prove was that I was after his money and all this stuff. It's that same thing when you have yourself stuck on a loop and you refuse to see anything else. You're going to try to make things happen to fulfill that thing. So he was set on, I was only out for his money, and that's all he thought anybody was after or whatever. And so it kind of fucked him up when I abandoned everything. But I put all my stuff in a trailer. I was moving it to a separate space. Like, I started moving my shit to a storage unit, and then was getting things lined up with my parents to come help me move back to Indy. And I was filling that storage unit for a while before he found out I was leaving, because the previous time I had attempted to leave showed me that if he knew what I was doing, he was going to start unpacking my stuff and start stealing stuff out of it just to be an ass and serve as an inconvenience, So if I knew I wanted it to go with me, like videos and stuff that I had, those little FurryBones skeleton dudes and costumes that I was collecting, those kind of things. I started with the stuff that he wouldn't know was missing. And, and I was going through clothes otherwise too, and we had stuff going to recycling all the time. So it's like, there would be a bunch of stuff and then it would just disappear. And a lot of it was recycling, and, I was doing other stuff with it. But since we only had one vehicle, because he was trying to prevent me from being able to do it, I had to take him to work. And then I had my work schedule. So I did not work while he was at work. Well, I worked very hard while he was at work, actually. It was just packing my shit and getting it out of there. So I would be able to finally break away for good with relatively little struggle on that end. Yeah. What is that? Oh. Oh boy. Oh, the group text. The only message I saw was my sister-in-law saying that they would not be attending the baby shower for my cousin because they will be on their cruise. It's like, well, that's a valid reason to not be there, and they did know that was happening around that time frame, so it's completely acceptable, right? Anyway, yeah, so like the whole thing was getting me disconnected from that situation, and I had no desire to waste more money on it than I already had, and going back to like that whole retirement thing where I took a big chunk of my retirement out to help us move to Alabama, and then he wouldn't help me with the car issue, and then my car ended up getting repoed because, there was a time that I was looking for a job, and he claimed his income was not enough to help me with the car payment, despite the fact that I just taken all this money out to help with the move down there. It's like, okay. Yeah. Oh, and this retirement that I had long before he was in the picture, that I needed his permission to take it out. What kind of bullshit is all this? See, this this is coming back to the bigger mission that I'm here for, and going back to that my shirt today. So they didn't burn witches, they burned women. So I'm finding that I'm shifting more and more into this focus on realizing all the shit that went wrong for me and how I got into the situations that I have, and how it largely goes back to that whole point of, the obsession over separating, the idea that there are only two genders kind of a thing. It's like, the two are the extremes, though. It's like, you have to balance both aspects of yourself within yourself before before you can really start to see all the ways you've allowed yourself to be treated like shit, because of the fixation, thanks to religion and politics, on keeping the two separate, right? So there's men over there and there's women over there, and then they push that point of marriage is the thing, and it's like, it's coming to union within yourself where you really step into your power, and that's what they don't want. That whole united we stand, divided we fall. So they are trying to keep us divided within ourselves first, because people don't realize that that's what's happening. They're keeping us out of our power, because if we realize that we, okay, my twin flame journey, it's like, I got all these flowy placements in my chart, and and even across different, for astrology, it's my sun, moon, rising, Mercury, and Mars are all in Cancer, right? So it's a whole lot of heavy, flowy energy and getting pulled into other people's dramas and all this stuff. But then, there's also, in Chinese astrology, I don't know much about this one, but I do know that, every 12 years, there's, a different animal, right? And I've talked about that on here a little bit, too, because the Year of the Dragon is a big thing, and I'm pretty sure that was the year that my twin was born, because of all the ways dragons have been relevant in my lifetime. And it's like this thing to keep me coming back to this idea of, this Year of the Dragon that would end up being his birth year, right? And I've talked about that many times too. And how when I was on that dating app back in like I think it was 2021, was what I stumbled across the other day that linked the two together. So where was I? Okay, 2021 would have been 2 years before I turned 40. So 37, 38-ish, depending on which part of the year you're looking at. And at that time, I remember thinking through I was trying to figure out the parameters for like, what is the youngest I would realistically feel open to dating, right? And I decided that I thought 5 years younger was a good range. And then, of course, I was born in 1983, so 5 years younger than that would be 88, which would be a year of the dragon. Right? So these kind of connections. This is the way I've always been collecting this data to weave things together, and why I'm 41 and before things are really coming together for me, because there's so many things that I've been trying to weave in for the big picture, and why it's so critical for me to learn to trust myself first and foremost. Because when I've mentioned some of this stuff to my brother, he's like, yeah, but what if, and starts trying to talk me out of it. It's like, that is why I have to trust me. That is why I have to be unified within bring these two parts of my own energy into union before this other thing can materialize in the physical world, right? So big part of that, it was realizing when I connected to his energy. I talked about the five guys in the one band, that it was the specific combination of energies that gave me the sense, because they all appeared in a dream, or in a few dreams after that. But the one in particular that I come back to most often was the one that made me realize that triggering point, like connecting with them and their music, was the sign for me that it was safe to come out of hiding and to start doing this work and putting the pieces together and start making sense of things. And as I've talked about, like, he's in the different bands, and so that's kind of an interchangeable piece, but at the same time, it wasn't from the standpoint of it was that specific combination of five, and everything that had played into their lives before that moment to get them there and to get them in that specific energy that they were revealing in their music. And it was a big time. It brought a lot of people into their music too, I think. So, and just seeing how my stomach's making noises now. Seeing how they're all doing this networking, and it goes back to that keys and codes things that, like, Harmonious Hearts talked about, and that I talked about her talking about many times. So like, they have all the different connections that they've had to make to get them in the specific energy that they needed to be in for me to get the information from the energy of their music that told me it was safe to come out of hiding and to start doing the work. Yeah. a whole lot of 4s up there. And that goes to that divine timing piece. It's like all the different connections that we set up before lifetime, before the specific lifetime that we came into, to, help orchestrate this bigger event. It's like all the pieces coming together at the right moment is divine timing, and that's what I've been being shown continuously through this whole twin flame journey, and why I'm supposed to be talking about that more and more before it comes into my physical existence as well. But it's funny because like the stuff I see that he posts on social media, it's like I can feel from his energy that he's been doing the work too, and I've talked before about, I think like that whole telepathy thing is huge, and we all do communicate with each other. It goes to that piece of like psychics and hearing messages, and your guides are saying, but your guides are also like higher aspects of the people that we're connected to beyond this existence. Right. So, like the whole purpose of me doing this channel is to start talking my way through navigating some of, I had to heal a whole bunch, and obviously there are still things that need to be talked about, because even though I've done the healing work, it still serves as a reference point for other people that are eventually going to come to my stuff. Right. And so as I've been on this journey this whole time, learning and growing and all this fun stuff, it's like energetically, my energy is also communicating to the other energies in the higher spaces where, I don't know, just bringing it all together, right? And that was really shown to me, I think, most, through the Gem Goddess video where she's talking about black dogs and how that's stuck with me. And then when I was feeling like it was feeling obsessive when I was listening to his music nonstop, and then 2 different tarot readings popped up in front of me immediately. The first one is like, that has a message for me. So I watched it, and it was that White Feather Tarot reading where she said, your guides are saying, she said, you're worried this feels obsessive, but your guides are saying it's not, and it has to be this way right now. And then the next one was a White Rose Guidance reading where she said specifically, she pulled this card that says, listen to my music. It's like, that's obviously an answer for me, because there's 2 things right in a row that are specifically to this point that I was just worried about. So it's like, obviously, it's like that exact moment that I have this thought, even though that wasn't exactly when those videos came out. Like, those videos had been out for a little while, I think. They just happened to end up in front of me at that point in time. It's like, it's like, so there's so much that's weaving together, and, it goes back to that divine timing and that whole unifying or coming into union with both aspects of yourself. Because that was a big point this past year, was realizing that I always had it within me to be able to do this thing, this whole YouTube thing, and start talking my way through the scary stuff sometimes, the hard stuff, definitely. And yeah, just all those things. It's always been in me to do it. And I've always known to some degree that was somehow what I was doing, and even that, as like, I think I've been thinking here lately about the different ways that I've been shown that these are things that have been prevalent in my lifetime, and the one I immediately think of is the live action version of Gem, that cartoon from the 80s that I was in love with. And in the live action one, she had a sort of little vlog thing. And then it's like just the little clips that I've seen in more recent years. It's like, okay, her, the music producer boyfriend, even, like just, the bright, colorful personality and clothes and everything. It's like, so basically, what I've been what's been demonstrated for me throughout my lifetime is like little hints of what I was gonna be like in a way. And like that came out in a cartoon in the 80s when I was itty bitty. And God, I gave myself my first haircut back in those days. I don't remember. I don't even know what I did, but my mom freaked out. But, even back to that point, it's like the bright colors and, that was, I don't know that it was hugely popular, but I know I loved it. And I know I've heard other people that absolutely loved it, and that was even a thing when I was in roller derby, because my derby name was Mystic Storm, but Storm was partly connected to, like I was playing with different things, and Stormer was a character on Gem, and like she was one of the misfits. But then I had a friend that was in, like, she had a band that she sang for a while, and she had like this long dark hair, and she kind of reminded me of one of the characters that, okay, so I have this few Gem dolls from way back when, and I cleaned them up recently because I was going to let Gracie play with them, and I had the really strong sense that I'm supposed to pull two of them out. And one of them, it's like I don't really remember anything about the characters hardly at all, but I know I'm supposed to pull them out and keep them in my stuff, as a sort of, I think, reminder of this thing that I loved when I was growing up, and how, embracing that aspect of my inner child, has led me to this bright, colorful thing too. Yeah. But like, okay, the one that I've been feeling inclined to pull out has like black and silver hair, and I forget what her name was, but she's one of the I don't know if she was a misfit or one of the other. I'm gonna have to watch that show again. I've been thinking about it for a while. I just haven't done it yet. Like I started when I was with my ex-husband, like when we were just dating. When I was like at this point in between jobs, and I started watching this cartoon again. So even that's kind of a funny point too, because it's bringing me back to embracing more of myself, and also was in a time that, was getting ready to go, like, that was at the start of a very dark phase of my life being with him, because, it took me to that place of getting to the absolute worst treatment that I would accept before I started fighting back and choosing myself. And it's like that whole point in choosing myself was the key component to bringing that back together, and that goes back to that twin flame thing. And, hey, quit licking the chair. Where back in the spring, I realized I've always had it in me to be able to do this stuff, I just also was relying on that point of like the cultural beliefs that were telling me how women are supposed to be submissive, and you're not supposed to be loud and whatever, and the the idea that you have to take your questions and your concerns to your husband outside of church, and your husband can be the one to take them to the church and all that stuff. It's like seeing all the ways that we've been led to believe that we're somehow less than. But the whole point of it is because if we realized we were capable of doing these things on our own, it was going to aggravate a whole lot of people's demons that are trying to keep the demons in place, right? So that keeping the two ends of the spectrum defined so that basically what I have seen in my personal experience over and over again is that the more defined they can keep, like the more we keep people at the far ends away from each other, and divided from within themselves even, the more shitty treatment we allow ourselves to endure, because we think we're not capable of doing X, Y, and Z because for me, because I'm female or whatever. And then realizing all the ways that all that did was let people walk all over the top of me, and do whatever they wanted to me in various ways because I wasn't strong enough to use my voice and to speak out against the bullshit at an earlier point in time, because I was taught I wasn't supposed to do that, and I wasn't supposed to be strong enough to start talking about the things that don't work for me because that's just not the person you're supposed to be in this world, right? This world does not want that kind of person, because if we start realizing that we are a lot more powerful than we've been led to believe, then first off, there wouldn't be the constant inclination to suicide, for one thing, because one of the biggest parts of that is you're made to stay divided within yourself and then believe you're completely isolated from everybody else, and what you do doesn't matter or whatever. But what you do does matter. And that's why when one person starts doing the healing work for themselves, it brings about big shifts collectively, because everything we do does affect other people very directly. You might not see it play out in the physical right away. I think that's one of those big pieces too on why I had to start trusting myself. I had to be in a place where I was required to trust myself and know that there's more going on than what I grew up thinking, because that's what brings us together. It's like doing the healing work on your own and showing others it's possible, and you don't have to be stuck and bound to the bullshit. So more people start choosing to do the work for themselves. And so, wherever you are on the spectrum of masculine, feminine, all that stuff, it's like once you bring both aspects of yourself into union together, we're basically unstoppable. And that's why they don't want that. That's why they're putting bullshit into place right now to keep pushing that separation piece. That's why, like, the dying system, it sees that it knows, it's always known it can't thrive when people start coming together. And that's why it gets really loud and obnoxious. And you can just look at politics anywhere, look at religion anywhere. It's like they want to keep us locked in the duality, because as soon as we realize that what we've been told is bullshit and we do need each other, and once we come into union within ourselves, it opens us up to have way better relationships with people too outside of ourselves, right? And yeah, that's a big thing. And I know I've only touched on part of what I've wanted to today on this a little bit, because there's I started mentioning that one political piece that I picked up earlier. It's like I'm not fully there yet, but it's coming. But I'm already at an hour on this video, and I have stuff I have class tonight, so that's a big thing, and I need to eat before then. So let me get this shit off my thing. I'm collecting little pop-up alerts on my phone, messages and whatnot. But yeah, I need to go tend to that stuff, eat something, and go to class, because I want to talk about that whole Falcon thing that was way awesome yesterday. And share it with some people who will appreciate it as well, and not waste my time sharing it with the people I already know aren't going to be able to appreciate it. I did I sent my brother and Ben messages. I sent them a picture of the Falcon. It's like, hey, so this is pretty cool, and then some of the symbolism and stuff, but they didn't appreciate it like my class will appreciate it. So yeah. So anyway, I'm gonna wrap this up today, and we'll do it again tomorrow. As always, I appreciate you, and until the next time, see ya.